Live from New York, it's Ask This Engineer.
Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Ask Engineer, the longest running live engineering show in the known universe. Not maybe in the multiverse. We don't know about the multiverse. Maybe next episode of WandaVision we'll find out more about it. But meanwhile, that's us. For the next hour, we're going to take you through a tour through all of the latest news and products and videos and tutorials and updates for the maker and hacker, engineer, and artist community. It's me, Ladyada. I'm the engineer. Ding, ding. And with me is Mr. Ladyada on camera control. We got a jam-packed show, so let's jump right in. Mr. Ladyada, what do we have for our audience tonight?
All right, on tonight's show, just will remind everyone to not only stay safe, but we're shipping smart and safe. We'll talk about that and more. Our team thanks you. Here's some pre-COVID photos. Thanks for placing orders. It's what keeps this USA manufacturer in business. Your orders. That's right. The only thing that keeps us going. So thank you so much. Show and tell people around the world, sharing the projects. Noah and Pedro were hosting the show and tell this week. Thank you, Noah and Pedro. Lady will talk about who was on the show and tell this week and more. A little bit of time travel, some Python and hardware news, some main New York City factory footage, some 3D printing. We got everyone's favorite segment, DigiKey and Adafruit present, IonMPI, and then this week's IonMPI is from Murata Power Solutions. We got some new products. We got a little bit of top secret. We'll answer your questions. We do that over on Discord, adafruit.it/Discord, where you can join all 27,000 of us over on Discord, the 24/7 hackerspace that's so cool and wholesome you can bring your kids over to it. All that and more on Ask an Engineer.
Woohoo!
Okay, first some logistic-y stuff and more. Shipping smart and safe. We had a weather delay last week because it was like
the biggest snowstorm in like New York history for the last like 20 years.
Well, I think it was since 2006 or so.
Yeah.
So usually the way it works in New York, it's not just a snow day; it's the days after because everything kind of like gets delayed from inbound to outbound.
It's almost like it gets piled up like a snowbank.
It is still piled up outside. So we sent our team home early to make sure they didn't get stuck in any closures. There was subway closures and transit closures in the areas. So we're almost caught up. So thanks for your patience. Also, it's, still COVID times. So everything is just slower than usual in general because that's how it is. That's how it's been.
I don't know if you know what's going on the last year or so.
Yeah.
But we're catching up.
Yeah, I think we'll be caught up all together. So if you placed like an expedited order, I think we're getting to those on our usual, like almost instant shipping. And then we'll be probably caught up on some of the older orders, postal and more. And then do expect there to be delays once it gets into the postal system. I personally have packages from different vendors and all that disappear for a while on postal and then reappear later. I have something from New Jersey that is
taking like 2 weeks.
In limbo.
Yeah.
So
New Jersey is kind of limbo. It's like between hell and earth.
And New York.
Okay.
So just know that's what's going on.
Yep.
In case you're wondering. Okay.
But we're still doing it. So place your orders.
Yeah.
Expedite. We'll get it out.
All right. When you place an order in the U.S. right now, we have the 100 days of masking. We have about 80 days left. We toss a free mask in your order for pretty much anything you order in the U.S. And then we also have the freebies.
That's right. Want me to talk about the freebies?
Yeah.
Okay. Top left corner, you got the Promo Proto half-size breadboard. You get that free with your order, $99 or more. Top right, there is a whole pile of STEMMA QT boards. We'll send you a STEMIQ board, a different one with each order if you make an account, because we can keep track of which ones we've sent you. If you don't make an account, we'll just send you a random one. We actually just added 2 more boards into the mix too. So, keep collecting them all. People love these. They're very fun to add to projects. All sorts of sensors, accelerometers, USB adapters, GPIO expanders, and more. Bottom left, UPS ground, free shipping for orders of $199 or more in the continental US. And bottom right is a free Circuit Playground Express when you order $299 or more. It's our all-in-one development platform that's great for learning Arduino or MakeCode, Code.org, CS Discoveries, Rust, you name it. Lots of languages have been ported to it, so it's a perfect way to get kick-in with electronics and programming projects without any soldering required.
Okay, those are all available now. Show and tell, we do this every single week, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Next week, we're back on the hosting schedule. But Ladyada, who is on the show and tell this week, and what did they share?
I'm glad you asked. Okay, kicked it off with Kevin from DigiKey with Kevin's assistant. She made a Valentine's Day bear with a Circuit Playground Express embedded inside of it, running MakeCode. And it's got also Monster Mask eyes, and they use like the anime eyes, so they looked really cool. Jeff has been playing with circuit sculpture, like making circuitry out of like these brass rods, and like it's like 3D sculpture. So no more just like flat PCBs. Totally lame. We're like doing it. We're doing it cool. We're going 3D, but not 3D printing, 3D soldering. Dan Halbert came by with his Pico pin hack that everybody's digging. He printed out the pinout page that we've got for the Pico and like magnified it like 55 times, and then he just poked the Pico through it and cut it out so he got a little foldable paper reference. It's a cute idea. Mark G JP is doing also showed off his Pico pin hack project. Also is doing a series of robotics quick bite tutorials on how to get motors and servos and solenoids and steppers all working with your Pico using CircuitPython. We've got code, but maybe you just need a little bit of wiring help. We gotcha. Coming soon to the learning system. Mark G has a logic analyzer project with the Pico. It seems like it was part of one of the projects that was released for the Pico, and he built it up. Timon found a off-the-shelf RGB like beauty ring light and opened it up, and surprise, surprise, it's got NeoPixels inside. So why not hack it by inserting a Pico? So he plugged a Pico in, and is using that to control the light. It looks super cool. Pick one of these up from like AliExpress or something, and you can easily reprogram it with CircuitPython. And Etienne is at a makerspace, and they're making PPE. They were really inspired by the face shield project that Adafruit did and other hacker and makerspaces did, and showed off their 3D printing, making, manufacturing line that they're doing in this makerspace. So a lot of great stuff in the show and tell. If there's another person on show and tell at the end, I might have missed it because I had to quickly come down here and get ready for show. So check out the show and tell if I missed anybody.
All right, it's part of our Adafruit live series of shows. If you're watching this right now, it's Ask an Engineer, 8 p.m.
That's right.
Show and tell is 7:30 p.m.
That's the thing we were just talking about.
And together, those are our shows that we do on Wednesday. Sunday, we do Desk of Ladyada and a little bit of a recap for the week. You showed off those new little NeoPixely.
Oh yeah, these
things.
are the pre-addressed addressable LEDs, which are like really cool and weird. So they work just like NeoPixels, but they're all connected on one bus. So they have individual addressing. And go watch the video because I talk all about it and I show it off. I even cut it in half and I show how both halves, they still act the way they would if they were connected, which is like it's like the headless NeoPixel strip.
All right, and then we had the Great Search.
Where in the world is that part I need? The Great Search with DigiKey.
And that's where you show with all these
Capacitors.
powers of engineering.
Capacitors. This is like that scene. What was it like? Bomber. He said, "Developers." It's
Yeah.
like that, but electronics. It's all capacitors. What kind of capacitors do you want? How are you gonna get them? Through-hole electrolytic, SMT. Why not use ceramic? Why not use tantalum? When? What? If? What? Why? Capacitors. Everything you need to know about finding them and buying them. And my top tips for when to use them and what kinds and what kind and when to use which kind, all on the Great Search.
Yeah, we have a old Sparky the Blue Smoke Monster video
Yeah.
puppet where he sings about capacitors.
Tantalum capacitors definitely love Sparky. If you even slightly mistreat a tantalum, up it goes.
All right, and then part of the JP series of shows, Tuesdays we have the product pick, Thursdays we have a show, and then we have MakeCode Minute. So we're going to play these back to back. First is going to be the product pick of the week. This is the recap. It's a UV sensor, and we broadcast these live right inside the product page. There's a limited sale just for that product during just that time. So here's a recap, and then right afterwards we're going to play the latest MakeCode Minute. See you on the other side.
The product pick of the week this week is the LTR 390. It is a UV and ambient light sensor. This is really useful for determining if it's safe to be outside in the sun for human skin. This is a little UV LED, and I'm getting a read of about 14, 15, 16. I'm going to run right out my workshop real quick and hold this up to the sunlight. I think we've got direct sun right now. There's no clouds. 126. Count of 95 is one index level on the UV index. That should be a UV index 1.3. That is my product pick of the week. It's the LTR 390, and it is a UV and ambient light sensor breakout board in STEMMA QT format. For the MakeCode Minute today, what I wanted to do was show you how inside of MakeCode, using just a very few blocks, we can create an analog read for, in this case, a potentiometer, which will map to the neopixels on the Circuit Playground Express. So first, here's the demo. I've got this little breakout board for a potentiometer. It's a standard, I believe, 10K pot. And you can see here, as I turn the knob, we get the same response as I turn that on the which neopixels are lit on that Circuit Playground Express. So let's take a look at how is this done. It's actually so simple you may not even believe it. What you'll see here looking at MakeCode is I decided to do this in as few blocks as I could think of doing it in. So I have one forever loop, and it just repeats the code inside of there. I have one block that turns all the neopixels off, just sets them all to black, and then a moment later it sets the pixel color at one neopixel to red, and the one that it does is based on this little block here, which is a map block which remaps some values. So it remaps the 0 to 1024, or roughly that, I've fudged it a little bit, to the neopixels number 9, which is that top right one, to neopixel 0. So that's how I map that same direction of turn here to the neopixels that are on the Circuit Playground Express based on the knob. And it repeats that forever. So it's very, very simple. We could do this other ways, but this way works really well. I think it's easy to understand, easy to explain. And this is the key block right here, this analog read pin A1. And that is the pin where I have the value of that potentiometer reading. It's acting as a voltage divider, so we get an analog value. And that is how you can map a potentiometer or other analog input on the Circuit Playground Express to the NeoPixel ring right inside of MakeCode. And that is your MakeCode Minute.
All right, a little bit of time travel news. Just two things this week. The first one is we'll be out of Ada boxes before we ship in April, so do make sure to sign up, adabox.com. We only have a few slots left because a lot of folks are still trying to figure out ways to do fun stuff at home. And Adabox is a good way to do that, so that is something to check out now because there will not be any left in April, for sure. Then the other thing we have is an update to our iOS AR app, and Trevor did a quick video. Now, I'll say this in advance. His kid was sleeping, so he had to quietly describe what's in the video.
But I think it's very ASMR. It's like,
Yeah.
it's like this is so relaxing.
so-
Like you want to go to sleep.
Yeah, so I did it. I boosted up the audio so you can hear it, but in case you're wondering why it's a little bit of a whisper, that's why. So check it out. And the latest update is if you have a Pico and you have our AR app, you can see the pin. So take it away, Trev.
With this new Adafruit AR update, using the Raspberry Pi Pico just got a bit easier to use. Now, you can display an overlay of your printouts for your Raspberry Pi Pico in augmented reality. Simply download Adafruit AR, then scan your Raspberry Pi Pico using the board scanner. When it's time for you to start a new project, there is no need to remove your Raspberry Pi Pico from your breadboard. It is truly the perfect companion for your Raspberry Pi Pico.
All right, next up, Python on hardware. It's mostly
Pico.
it's mostly people getting Picos and saying, I want to do projects on it and with it.
What
and
kind of
then
projects?
putting CircuitPython on it.
projects.
Yeah, so that's kind of why we made CircuitPython. Like, what's cool is you have all these choices. You can write in C, you can do MicroPython, you can do CircuitPython. But when folks want to do projects, one of the things, because we have a lot of guides and code and tutorials, is they're using CircuitPython. So
right.
a few things that we covered. There was good
We've had a lot of podcasts and stuff.
everyone's doing the podcast tours. There was discussion with the designers of the RP 2040 chip designer folks over at the Raspberry Pi Foundation. So you can learn the history about it.
Look at their desktops.
Listen-
Look at their desktops on their desktops.
Yeah, so I think it's Liam Fraser and a few others, and you can check that on the Raspberry Pi blog.
They also talk about like how they went through this ARM process to get the core of the chip and then add peripherals, because they wanted to do the PIO stuff, and like how do you merge that with the ARM Cortex core. So people were like, why didn't they go with RISC-V? I don't know, watch this video.
Yeah, I think a lot of the hot take tweets that people, they should maybe just read some of these interviews or the videos.
Yeah,
or
watch them, yeah.
Yeah, because
Lots of good details.
I think a lot of it is answered in these places, like, oh, why'd you do this? Why'd you do that?
Yeah.
I see that happen a lot in electronics, where someone spends a huge amount of time on something. There's obviously design decisions, and they spend a lot of time on documentation, say why they did something.
But then nobody reads it.
And then no one reads it, and then people get discouraged, and they don't want to do hardware or software anymore. So this is pretty rare. You don't get to like see and hear interviews.
This is quite rare.
With,
Look, I don't
with
know.
other people who've worked on chips.
Here's the deal. There are people at, Microchip, Atmel, Nordic, ST that design the chip. I have no idea who they are. I will never talk to them. Like,
Yeah.
they're hidden, right? And good for them. They should hide. Because why answer people's questions if you don't have to? So I'm really impressed with.
Most don't, because they don't want to deal with it.
No, why deal with it? That's why it's so great
Yeah.
that the Raspberry Pi folks, like, they all came out and they're like, here's what I worked on, and talking about the process.
Yeah.
And, it's actually kind of funny. They're like a little decompressing. They're like kind of doing therapy, because it's been like a 4-year-long project. But now we, at the end, there's just like this chip, and it's like really small, but it took 4 years.
Yeah. So, anyways, I think this is also going to change the way microcontroller makers have to compete, because you can't just hide behind a crummy data sheet and like endless, like weird
App notes.
or like,
Forums.
there's a story behind a lot of these things.
Yeah.
And I think this changes.
I like the openness.
Amp Hour also has a podcast they could check out. The January 2021 Melbourne MicroPython meetup happened, so we usually post this up in our newsletter. Damien talks about the MicroPython port for the Raspberry Pi Pico.
Yes.
We mentioned the Adafruit AR overlay. This is really handy. We're seeing kids, like a lot of kids have iPads, a lot of kids have iPhones.
Yeah, you have to have a modern iPhone.
And they're
to
able
use the AR kit.
Yeah, and they have a Pico, so they're able to look at all the pins and more. Every Friday, Scott has a deep dive. You can check out that one. The latest was the RP 2040 audio and the DMA debugging. And then around the web, we've been collecting up all the examples we've seen of CircuitPython and Pico and
Game Duino
MicroPython and
Dazzler.
Pico. Yeah.
And then this is that Timon project with the LED beauty lamp, so it's a NeoPixel inside.
Yeah.
This is a not Pico project, like one made through. This is fun. Actually, people really like this as a soil moisture indicator using off-the-shelf electronics, and it's cool because it's like, existing code just worked. People got CircuitPython working with the display on the Pomeranian Explorer. There's an NES emulator if you want to play with that. Folks are doing HAD and LEDs and NeoPixels, all stuff that we have working really well in CircuitPython. So, cool stuff.
Yeah. So that's what we've been
Other Python
keeping
news.
track of. The other thing I thought that was neat, someone collected all the bitmap fonts
You have like games and stuff.
from Demoware, and then
Yeah.
there's a couple more examples where you can just like type into a form and then all the fonts come in. I think that'll be neat for like really small devices.
Well, the project that we just did, Carter did for the CO2 display that we showed off last week. He didn't use a font because he had to have like the pixels look a certain way, so he actually made a sprite map font.
Yeah.
So this would be the same technique. Would work really great.
All right, we're up to 297 libraries. We'll be up to 300 pretty soon. That's
Ooh.
kind of exciting. And then, as usual, we have some of the upcoming events and more. Open Hardware Summit is
Lots
in
of
virtual mode.
Virtual.
GeoPython, PyCon US, and more. You can check all this out on Adafruit Daily. I think it's the biggest Python on Hardware newsletter out there. And in case you're wondering, Python on Hardware already happened. It's now getting distributed because
Okay.
no, it is like this is something that we thought was going to happen
Yeah.
a few years ago, and the fact that there's going to be millions of microcontrollers. Specifically, like if you add up the
Yeah.
the Pico, the RP2040,
And all the
all the ones-
variants, something. Yeah.
and then you add like the Nordic, and then you add the ESP32
the
S2,
STMs. Yeah.
and then you add the Atmel microchip ones.
I mean, we have what, like 200, 250 boards. supported?
yeah,
I mean,
so
like,
if you go to circuitpython.org, you can see
Yeah.
the boards. But it happened fast, or it happened incredibly slow, depending on if you're working on it. Like if you're working
Yeah.
on something, it's like, wow, this has been working on this for years. But as far as what we've seen, and this is kind of neat from the newsletter, is new chip comes out, new board comes out, Pico, and then right away there's examples that you can literally cut and paste. CircuitPython being one of the examples of
Yeah.
the ease of doing this. And then I saw the things that people ask, what IDE? You don't need an IDE. You don't. When you use CircuitPython, for example, you don't need an IDE. You can use a text editor. You can use any IDE you want, but you're not tied into an IDE. And I think that's one of the things that I've been seeing in some of these interviews with folks. They really like the idea of a REPL, that they can do real-time stuff.
Yeah.
And they also really like not having to compile and then upload to a board. Like
I
that,
keep saying it's amazing that MicroPython was a first-class development environment for this chip. Never happened before. This is the first chip where Python hardware is the first-class language of use. It's not like the quote-unquote toy, fun, like, ooh, weird hack. It's like,
Yeah.
no, this is official. This is how they expect people to program this chip.
yeah.
Very cool.
So I think, January was kind of a big month for a lot of this stuff. Like that's when I think the next chapter really started. Like we were like whatever like the makers, hackers are doing like on the weekends, eventually it becomes mainstream, and mainstream in this case is the Pi Foundation did a chip, and shipping on the chip is Python.
Yeah.
So anyways, good stuff, and that is the Python hardware news for the week.
Thank you, Blinka.
Okay, we're an open source hardware company.
right.
We have 2,417 guides. Ladyada, what's on the big board?
I'm
This
glad
week.
you asked. Let me look at them. Okay, so last week we had that RGB matrix portal room CO2 monitor and the cosplay floating LED fireball. So it's a fun project from Aaron, and a temperature and humidity sensor for ESP Home and Home Assistant. We also released, I think, this week the Sensirion SHT40 guide. That's our new 4th generation temperature and humidity sensor. Noah and Pedro made a heart-shaped NeoPixel PCB, a great beginner project for people who want to do SMT soldering. Check that out. It's milled on a Bantam machine, but you can probably just send out those PCBs to Osh Park. I think they show how to do that as well. We also got a guide for the new ISO 1540, the bidirectional I2C isolator. It's a new product this week. And also the AW9523 GPIO expander and LED driver, also a new product this week. Double new this week. And Noah Pedro also did a fun little 3D printed case and Lego compatible mount for the Pico. You can use it as is, but it's meant so people who want to do projects that have a Pico inside of them can easily take the existing overlay and the mounting dots and everything, and then expand to fit whatever 3D printed project they want. But they have a couple examples. They've got an enclosure with some buttons. They've got this Lego mount, and they've got an open case. So for all you Pico people who have a 3D printer, now's a good time to make projects that the Pico goes into. So great use of 3D printing.
Yeah, just on a Lego note. So I think this is my request to the community. So I guess Lego they have a reputation of going after people for using the word Lego.
Yeah.
Cool.
This actually does plug into Lego.
Yeah, cool.
Like that's actually Lego.
That's neat that's cool that they've earned that reputation, and maybe it's justified, maybe it's fair or not. But sometimes in the maker community, what happens is everyone becomes a cop and says, Lego.
Yeah, don't snitch.
It's like, you know what? Who cares? That's like, who cares what Lego thinks? Like so we a long time ago we had like Lego compatible on a product, and they emailed us, and I sent it to our lawyer, and they're like, oh, like just tell them we're going to put like Lego Dash compatible or something, and they're like, okay, and then they went away.
I think we just had to add compatible.
And it's one of those things where like let's continue to retain like the maker hackery thing. Like
keep it punk.
Like, yeah, like, okay, so maybe Lego is going to sue people, but don't, like, every time you see something, because I see this all the time. And a lot of makers do Lego compatible boards and stuff like that. And all the comments are like, Lego, they're going to sue you. It's like, well, like, okay, maybe, but, like, don't ruin the comments everywhere about Lego and their reputation with that. Like, why they're not paying you to intimidate people?
We should go to YouTube and like all the people who post like video clips of movies, go there and comment about how those videos are like, illegal.
So, anyways,
go there.
This is my request.
if you want to be like a little cop,
this is my request in the maker market, in the electronics market, is like specifically, like I'm not even being general. I'm saying
just for like
I'm saying. Okay, if you see a maker doing a cool project with Legos, don't say, hey, you're gonna get sued and die alone, penniless. Like it's so discouraging every time.
What's the point?
And
well, just people they just want attention.
Well, if your only form of participation is being mean on Twitter towards other people's projects, like you see something like a cool Lego thing, and what's your first impulse? I know. Let me remind you, because like I'm like, are you like some type of...
I know you were having some moment of joy.
I know you're having fun,
but I'm taking that away.
I know you're having fun, and I'm not a police officer, but I would like to be one that enforces Lego.
Yeah.
Like some like weird minifig Lego cop.
It's like the Lego Hitler Youth.
Well, it's just like it's specifically for Lego, and so I've been part of Make. I started Hackaday.
I know this has been like.
I started Hackaday, and it's like, why are you doing Lego's intimidation? Are these like?
You're not being paid. You get nothing out of it.
Yeah, they're paid to go town to town and rough up people using Legos.
What's funny is Lego isn't even the worst. Velcro is way, way worse. But like, you don't see anybody doing it for Velcro, because Velcro doesn't have like minifigs based off of your favorite Batman character.
Yeah.
But Velcro, by the way, they're way more intense about this shit. So, like, don't call anything Velcro.
So, yeah, I mean, I think Lego, I think Lego has an unpaid...
We're having 30 more minutes, everybody.
I'm not moving on from this. This is the Lego show. So...
Everybody's just like, you can't call it the Lego show. It's the Lego compatible show.
This is the Lego show, all about Legos. No, and I think that the problem is people fall into this trap where their only form of participation is now intimidating others because they see something with Lego.
Yeah, I don't
you got to get off of it. And if you see someone doing that, just say like, hey, like let's at least say cool project, and then like maybe wait a day or like something else, and then say, well, by the way, Legos. But it's just this unpaid vigilante Lego militia. Like, when did people become like trademark? Like, I want to be trademark lawyer.
Just for Lego.
Just for Lego. It's just for Lego, and it's never ending.
Yeah, it fucks them up.
It's never ending, and and again, I started Hackaday. I have like a billion blog posts, and like I just see it. It's unending. And, like, we can't let children grow up to be Lego enforcers.
Mafia. Yeah.
We can't. We have to stop it.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, some Made in New York City factory footage.
Okay.
All right, and then here's some stills of.
This is like a tester for some OLEDs. Oh, we recently, this is pretty cool actually. We updated our Bluefruit testers. This is NRF51 based testers to be programmed from a Metro. It used to be that I had to use a J-Link and a Raspberry Pi, which was like really clunky and kind of expensive. But then we added like SWD DAP support for the NRF51 in our Arduino library, and so I can use an Arduino to program an NRF51, which is awesome.
You got this thermal image of this
That's
particular
actually
tester.
a Lego, by the way.
I moved on.
Okay,
Yeah.
we're over it.
All right, and then wouldn't be Main New York City factory footage without here's some more
Stormy.
winter stuff going on,
Yeah.
and then of course across the street they're digging out of the giant amount of snow that just dumped into
Oh, there's still a lot of snow.
the Disney building.
Well, we got
across the
another
street.
we got another 4 inches
Yeah, it
this
might,
week too.
apparently it might snow a couple inches tonight.
Again. It's a very snowy winter. Usually we don't get that much snow. anymore.
Yeah, well, it seems to lately there's like a 4-year gap between accumulation of
Yeah.
of snow in New York. I don't know about weather patterns enough to know if that's normal or how it works with historical snowfall, but that is what it's across the street. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
3D printing. No pager have.
Pico.
Yeah.
Wait, what's up?
Well, it's we have that video about the
Oh,
Lego video,
shit.
and then and
All right,
then
and
the
then we're
speed
gonna
up.
have 10 minutes. I'm not
Yeah, but someone in the chat also said. So see, I'm not the first one to like. As soon as I say it, everyone's like, "Oh yeah, there's all those people who constantly correct me on how I it's all caps and I have to put a registered thing." And it's like forums where people are like,
It's like super Lego police, and like you can't say Legos. They're like the plural is,
But
which,
it
which
isn't-
makes me just want to type in Legos.
but it isn't.
even
It
more.
isn't people who work at Lego. It isn't. It's
No,
it's people who that's their form of participation.
they're very passionate.
But not about other things, just that.
Yeah.
That's their jam. What'd you do today, Bob? Enforced Lego branding. Yeah. Do you get like points for that? Do you get to like go to? Do you get a like
Do you have
a-
free Legos?
Yeah. Do you get like an all-you-can-eat like Lego bucket at the Lego store? They're like, thanks for your good work, turning in your fellow citizens. So here's a video.
Hey, what's up folks? In this project, we're 3D printing parts for the new Raspberry Pi Pico. We designed these enclosures and Lego compatible plates for making fun 3D printed projects. The Raspberry Pi Pico features the new RP2040 chip with CircuitPython support. It's got tons of GPIO pins, so it's great for projects that need lots of inputs at a very low cost. Our Lego compatible mount features studs that fit standard bricks or base plates. It features built-in standoffs so you can snap fit the Raspberry Pi Pico right on top. To install CircuitPython, start by holding down the boot select button while plugging in USB. This puts the Pico in bootloader mode, which gets it ready for installing CircuitPython. Head over to circuitpython.org, click on the Downloads tab, and search for the Raspberry Pi Pico. Click the Download button to get the latest version of CircuitPython. Then you can simply drag and drop the UF2 file onto the Pico's USB drive. The board will then flash the new firmware. Once it's copied over, you can unplug and reconnect to load the CircuitPython USB drive. Now you can easily drag and drop your code and library files. Using your favorite code editor, you can make quick edits to iterate your projects, so there's no need to compile and upload code. Our 3D printed case features 2 switches. These can be used for projects that need user buttons or a reset button. The switches can press fit into the holes that are on the side of the case. We used Molex Pico blade connectors to make it easier to plug in the buttons to the Raspberry Pi Pico. To make this a portable project, we added a small LiPo battery and a slide switch. We also added 2 NeoPixel sticks and fitted them on top. The enclosure has a built-in holder for the slide switch. To install the switch, you can press fit it at an angle. The standoffs feature M2 size pegs that press fit into the mounting holes. The Pico blade connectors are small enough to wedge in between the sides of the case. We 3D printed the top cover in white filament so the light from the NeoPixels are nicely diffused. We also designed and 3D printed Lego compatible clips for flexible NeoPixel strips. We hope this inspires you to try out CircuitPython on the new Raspberry Pi Pico. Thanks so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more projects from Adafruit.
Okay, and 3D Hangouts are every single Wednesday, and you can learn how to print all these Lego compatible things and more. All right,
Okay.
it's time. DigiKey and Adafruit present. All right, this week is from Murata Power Solutions. Ladyada,
Yes,
What is-
Murata.
new
Okay,
product of the week.
I'm going to take you on a journey. This is going to be a great Ion MPI. You're going to learn all sorts of stuff that you didn't expect to learn about. So this week's Ion MPI is for the MHM series of Ionizer modules from Murata. These are chassis mount ionizers and ozone generators. Okay, so this is what it looks like. It's got this little, the blue thing is like the actual like ionizer. I guess it's got like some ceramic or something that will actually generate the ions. And then the PCB, the high voltage PCB, it's got, a high voltage power supply with, it looks like a flyback transformer and all the control circuitry, to generate it. And you basically just plug in 12 volts and like, boom, you get ions out, which is awesome. This is part of the Ionissimo, which sounds like a character in some cool opera that really likes capacitors, maybe. Basically, they have ionizers and ozonizers. We're going to talk about the ionizer, but this is part of they have a series of boards, and they all look, as you see, kind of similar. So the MHM series, they've got these really lovely data sheets. And yeah, I mean, like, here's the thing. It's actually kind of easy to use. You just plug in the power. There's a monitoring pin as well if you need like a feedback loop to make sure it's on and the high voltage is being generated. You get about 5 million ions per cubic centimeter, typical. And you have ozone, and it's either like 0.6 milligram or like 0.16. There's also one that does negative ion, one does positive ions. There's three different ones in this series, and so you'll like they all look identical. So to really tell which one you have, be sure to open up the data sheet and then look at the negative ion amount and the ozone amount, because that's what's going to vary, even though mechanically they are like the same size. Okay, so yeah, usage is really easy. There's a V monitoring pin, gives you 2.5 volts out, lets you know that it's the high voltage is being generated, because it's high voltage. It's like 200 volts or something, or who knows what, like some very high amount. It says there's a fuse here that says 250 volt 1 amp, so I'm assuming it's about that high. But that's the dangerous part. So just don't touch the bottom, and keep the high voltage part away from your chassis, and of course earth ground your chassis if you want to use this. What I thought was interesting is they released a few months ago a press release about using these ionizer modules to deactivate SARS-CoV-2, otherwise known as the coronavirus. It was a scientific experiment. It was a lab-based experiment that they worked with a university to do. So they have some papers with graphs showing how the purple is the control, and then if you have a lot of ozone, it will deactivate the virus. I guess this is like a well-known thing. Ionizers tend to be used for like air freshening, static removal, disinfection and stuff. So they just sort of showed like, yes, in a lab, the COVID virus gets deactivated when you blast with ozone. Now, how this actually applies to real life, would you use this to maybe make like a mask sanitizer? You'll have to do your own experiments to make sure that what you're using this ionizer for is actually doing what you expect. So I would like to make sure people keep that in mind, that this is just a lab study. It wasn't a like in reality like everyday use study, which can be different. That said, for scientists and engineers who want to like generate a bunch of ions or ozone, this is like the cheapest way to do it. Like compared to the other modules, this is like a half or tenth of the price of other ionizer modules. It's really easy to use. It's really cheap. So like definitely scientists and engineers who want to get some ions going, positive or negative, this is your jam. Okay, so now I went to the Murata website. You're like, why? What's this comic book? I went to the Murata website and I click about the company, because I usually read a little bit about the company. And they've got this awesome manga that they wrote, and it's available in Japanese, English, and Mandarin. And it tells you like the history of the company and like the ceramic capacitors that they made, and like how this guy invented them by going to university and studying really hard. And it's like, look, there's like ceramic capacitors with like manga lines on them. How can you not love it? Check out this comic book. It's free off the Murata website. I thought that was just charming. Way better than like a boring PowerPoint for sure.
It's better than one of the Justice Leagues they're on.
Yeah, true. Okay. We're going to get the Zack Snyder cut of the Murata capacitor manga soon. Next up, they also were one of the companies. This is like, Phil, you talked to me about this, like, 10-ish years ago. A lot of Japanese companies started making their own robots. So they made a robot, and their robot was like a humanoid that would ride a bicycle. This isn't actually that tall. I think this is like maybe like a foot tall, so it's not like human size. But it used Murata sensors and wireless modules and motor controllers to make like a little robot that could ride a bicycle back and forth. And here's another cool thing: it can balance on the bicycle, so it's like not moving here, and it can balance like side to side, which is like pretty impressive. Check out the video.
Yeah, there was Sony that had Curio, and then Honda had Asimov.
Yeah.
And then there was a whole slew of others, and it was this humanoid robot race to figure out who could have like kind of the most interesting demo. And then Festo came along, and they had these more organic ones, and you haven't really seen it. It was like a humanoid robotic competition worldwide unsaid, and then later on with Big Dog and like Atlas, you've seen some of those as well.
Yeah, and this is just showing you they have some tutorials on how it works too. So they're inside. There's like a flywheel, and the flywheel helps it retain its balance. It's not easy to make a balancing ball like this. So I'm impressed that they did it. And they have a couple of videos about Murata Boy. And then if you're wondering, well, what about Murata Girl? We got you. There's also a unicycle balancing robot. Same deal. It can balance on a single wheel, and it even has a whole history, including a zodiac sign. I'm kind of surprised that there is no blood type or whatever, I guess, a backstory. But so check out these two robots. What I just thought is cool is that these are friendly, happy robots. These are robots that like to ride bicycles and have fun. They are not robot enemies. They are robot friends. So I'm always a fan of that. So I thought that was cool too. So check this out.
DigiKey?
But back to the ionizer. So you can pick these up from DigiKey. Again, there are 3 different kinds. One is like positive, high ozone. One is negative, low ozone. There's a couple different kinds used for different purposes. Check out the data sheets to compare them. Also check out the Ionissimo page on the Murata website. There's also, DigiKey has a little video. We're not going to show that video. There's a different video that DigiKey has about these, so you can watch that as well. And for like $30, you can have an ionizer tomorrow morning.
Yeah. Chart URL code is digikey.com/chart 433FP7, and the code is 490.14.864ND.
Yeah, let's go to the overhead real fast, and then we'll
Sure.
go watch the video. So I'll just show it.
Yeah, the video doesn't have any sound, so you're going to have to talk over it anyways.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
Yeah, it was.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It has like text. Okay, so this is just the ionizer module. I plugged it in, but like you can't see anything. It just if you smell it, you're like, oh, that smells like ionizy ozony. But power is here. You connect a JST connector here, and I have the part number in the blog post. It's also in the data sheet. And then this is the high voltage section, so you do not touch this part. You would want to mount this off of your board, and then green, I believe, is earth ground connected to this ground, and then this is the high voltage pin. And then inside here, you know what, actually, maybe I'll try to open this. I didn't think of that. But there is this little protector, and I guess, I didn't quite read about this, but there's like a little wire, and I guess this is what the ions are flying off of, this little piece of metal here. There's like a very, very thin piece of metal, and then there's this, I guess, a ceramic isolator or something. So interesting stuff. But yeah, for $30, it's like, have your own ion generator. Why not? All right, so let's check out the video.
Yeah, you might have to do a little narration. 'Cause
Yeah.
there's-
All right, Murata, innovator, electronics. So yeah, they basically released these. They released these before COVID came about. So they weren't originally designing these for use with like viral deactivation. It was initially for like anti-static usage, or for I guess they're used for anti-static usage in dryers, which is kind of a cool idea. You say blast ions or ozone in. And they have the ionizer and they have ozonizers. So check out the ozonizer if you ever need those. We just talked about the ionizer. Oh yeah, for 4.3 kilovolt. Sorry, did I say 250 volt? I meant 4.3 kilovolt. So yeah, definitely don't touch it. Yeah, and they're often used. I see them also in people have like portable air fresheners. They're used as well, or like if you have smoke, like things if you smoke, you have one of these and it removes the smoke from the air. So that's what these ionizers and ozonizers are good for.
All right, and that is this week's Liner again. All right. One of the things that if you don't have Discord going during our shows, you don't get to see a lot of the cool back channel stuff.
Is it all about Lego?
No, everyone's moved on from Lego.
Okay.
That's the before time.
Yeah.
But because we blog quite a bit and like to have like memorable things in electronic history, so when we wrote about AVR Freaks going away, I did a whole post about that in 2017, and that community like really didn't want any newcomers, and so we had this like story about AVR Freaks,
Yeah.
some of the things that they had, and they had AVR Man Todd Bot posted that up. He's like, hey, remember AVR Man? I'm like, yeah. In fact, we made Sam.
Yeah.
And Sam was going to be the first female like engineering hero or whatever.
Yeah.
Completely shot down by Atmel.
Oh, they totally hated it.
ain't no women in electronics. And so
they were like, well, we can't have.
It was bad.
Because we said, oh,
and none of those people are around anymore. So,
we said, yeah, I can totally say
yeah.
it. So we were like, well, Sam, she's like 4 times better than AVR Man, because AVR Man's 8-bit and she's 32-bit. And they're like, well, you can't like compare them, because like the 8-bit guy got like really offended because he's like, well, you can't like.
No one liked us.
You can't make it so that there's a better character than AVR Man. AVR Man has to be the best. So, anyways,
check out Discord.
It's on the blog too.
And it's on our blog, and you can, and it's neat.
And the company doesn't even exist anymore.
Yeah, and it's neat because you can see that there's a lot of people that are always trying to have change happen in our industry, and the stakeholders don't want that. They and this goes back to the Raspberry Pi Pico. It goes back to lots of things where, when there's something new and interesting and a whole bunch of different people are coming in, there's a bunch of people who do not want that at all whatsoever. And so check out the story about AVR Freaks on our blog. It's in the chat.
Yeah.
Todd's like, yeah, Sam would have been awesome. And Sam chips are better than, AVR. Like, it would have been such a good idea.
Well, I was like, look, like you could say she's like 4 times faster. Like, if there's anything, but they were like just super not into it. You want to grab the AVR Man? Oh yeah, you have that.
And just
Why
to
do you
show,
have that?
and just to show, I'm not messing around. I didn't even know. I didn't even know Tom.
We didn't predict
I didn't even know Tom was going to talk about this. But like, I have the figure. I have this. I don't even know. Like, where would you even find these anymore? We were serious. We're like, this is something. We weren't dunking on AVR Man. We just said it's time for Sam. So anyways,
It's definitely Sam time.
that's freaky. I've had to do action figures. this was expensive.
Did they send this to us, or what? How did we get this?
Atmel, I believe I got this at a maker fair. Yeah, so I wasn't kidding around.
What does it say in the back here? Superheroes before AVR, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
So.
Well, the evil Dr. Microchip took over his lab and absorbed him. So that's that.
Yeah, let me and just because I have to now follow up on this story completely, if you search for AVR Man Adafruit Sam, you'll be able to see what I was just talking about. And so there's there's Sam.
There's Sam.
And we made this art. We're like, hey, like we'll even do it for you. We'll like, as the Sam D was coming out, we thought that, like, this is going to be really cool. Let's they could be friends. So this is all part of a big story, and there's not really like a history of AVR Freaks and like the Atmel to Microchip acquisition like that happened. And so we have this. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, with ultra fast 32-bit
Yeah.
logic, she's 4 times faster and smarter than AVR Man.
So we proposed AVR.
I didn't like that.
Yeah, we proposed AVR Woman to Atmel for years. AVR Sam, Samantha, with her ultra-fast 32-bit logic. She's 4 times faster and smarter than AVR Man's 8-bit. Sorry. And she was inspired by Anne Easley, computer science mathematician and rocket scientist. There's another parallel universe where this happened. Anyways. So let's do some new products.
Okay. New. It's new product time.
Okay, let's kick it off.
Okay, we've got, I had a wheel of these and I was like, oh, I'm not using them, but we should sell them. These are the Espressif ESP32 S2 Warooms. They look a lot like the Warovers that we have in stock. So you're like, what's the difference? The Warooms cost less and do not have PS RAM. They do have 4 megabytes of flash. There's no PS RAM. They have the 300-ish K of SRAM. So they work fine in Arduino. Doesn't work so great in CircuitPython because you don't have enough RAM. But if you're using the ESP32 S2 in Arduino, these are pin compatible with the Warover and they cost less.
All right, next up.
Okay, next up we've got a fab new product, the ISO 1540. I know it says X because like I wasn't sure exactly which chip I was going to use, but we went with the 1540. What is this weird beast? So this is a isolator. You can sort of see a dashed line go through the middle of the board there, kind of from the top left to the bottom right. So the two sides of this board, the power, ground, clock, and data, are electrically isolated. What that means is that if you have circuitry where you have an I2C controller on one side and a peripheral on the other side, and you don't want them to have any electrical connectivity, like there's no conductivity between the two, you would use one of these. And you have to power both sides, right? That's the one trick, is both sides need to be powered separately because they have different separated power supplies. Then the clock and the data line can pass data back and forth at 1 megahertz just fine. It's designed for I2C, although in theory I guess you could use something else with it. But it's really great for I2C when you want to have electrically isolated, I2C controllers, and it's bidirectional. So it's called like multi-master and I2C, but the important part is you don't have to worry about which side is which, because data passes through for SDA and SCL both ways for both of them. So you got to keep them separated. Use the ISO 1540 breakout. All right, next up, this is going to be pretty popular, especially once we start releasing more of our CAN bus stuff. This is a CAN bus to OBD adapter, which I keep saying ODB because who doesn't love Old Dirty Bastard? But it's OBD, OBD2, technically. So in your car, you may not know this, but there's a little port you can plug into, and you can download your like statistics and your sensor outputs and like the details about your car. And when you go into, when you have like a check engine light type thing, and you go in to the mechanic and they like plug in a thingy into your car and they download and tell you what's up with your car, like your oxygen sensor is dirty or something. They'll use something like this. So this cable, I do want to clarify that this is not a converter electrically. Like it doesn't, even though it's a serial port looking thing on the end, you don't plug that into your computer serial port. This is like a mechanical converter. So it converts the plug on the right, which is like this weird, large, chunky D shape, to a DE9 on the left. And this is because OBD is CAN bus compatible, you can often use CAN bus shields or feathers or whatever, Raspberry Pi hats to connect to and read data from OBD. But you need the right port, and the port that's on the CAN board is usually the one on the left, this one, and the one that goes into your car is this one. So that makes sense. It's just a cable adapter. But if you have something with CAN bus that has a DE9, chances are you can just plug this into your car, and you can start reading debug data from your automobile, which is super cool. Great for car hackers or analyzers, or just people who are like, hey, I've got this like computer with wheels. What's going on with it? So check it out. We do have the pinout in the product page. It uses what I consider the standard CAN pinout, but I know that there's two apparently. So just make sure yours is the right one. Okay.
Actually, let's do kind of a question on this one.
Yeah?
Will you be able to do things with CircuitPython with this?
Well, we have a CAN IO library in CircuitPython. We don't have like the decoding, like you have to decode the messages to know what they mean. You will definitely be able to read the messages, but what they actually mean, there's no library we have in CircuitPython though. Although there's probably one in Python that if someone's interested they can port it over to CircuitPython. That's likely going to happen. It's just we don't have that right now.
Okay, next up.
Okay, next up. This is not a new cable, but we just have now a combo page. So I know that people have been like, how come I can't get STEMMA QT cables? Believe me, we're buying tens of thousands of these, and they evaporate extremely quickly. We're trying to get more and more, but the more and more we order, the more and more they sell out. We'll solve this eventually. I can't get a Raspberry Pi Pico right now or a PS5 either. But when you go to a page for the QT cables, the STEMMA QT cables, you'll see which ones are in stock. So it'll be a little easier to pick a slightly different size if necessary.
Okay.
Same cable.
And then last up to start the show, besides you, Ladyada, our community, our customers, and everyone hanging out in the chats, is...
This is the AW 95 23. We actually saw this on Reddit. You know, Reddit's good for some things, not just buying stonks, but also getting some chip recommendations. So this is the AW9523. So we're going to just look at this one picture for a bit because I got to explain what's going on here. So this is an I2C expander. What that means is you send I2C commands in on the left or the right using the stem QT connectors or the breakout at the bottom, and you can control 16 different IOs. Now, you're not going to control them as fast as if they were on the chip, the microcontroller you're using, but maybe you've got something like a cutie pie and you want to control 16 LEDs. If it doesn't have 16 pins on it, how would you do that? You could use this expander. So this expander has 16 inputs and outputs. So each of these, things labeled 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, through 15 can be either an input or an output, or, and this is kind of weird, it can be a constant current LED sync, which is unusual. Most expanders don't have that capability to do constant current with dimming. So if you are, you can use this for buttons, you can use this for, whatever you want to do expansion to. But if you're using with the LEDs, it's particularly good because you can dim the LEDs 8 bits and there's no PWM, so you don't get no flicker. It's a constant current, like perfectly smooth, linear dimming. And second, you don't need a resistor because it's constant current. And that's why you see there's V-in pads along the I/O. You can just connect your LED from the V-in to the GPIO pad and Bob's your uncle, you can dim the LED, no resistor required. So I think it's really great for LEDs. That said, it also can be used as an input or for any other thing that needs I/O expansion. Just note that it's not PWM, it's a constant current sync output. And let me, maybe I'll even grab my cable here and I'll plug in my demo. So let's go to the overhead and do my live demo. Hopefully it'll work out. Okay. So here I've got everyone's favorite. It's the cutie pie. So again, if you want to drive 16 LEDs, you can't. It doesn't have 16 pins, but it does have the stem key connector. And then over here, and this is kind of neat, I just took an RGB LED and I'll unplug this so you can see. I connected the power pin of the LED, the anode, to V-in, and the R, G, and B to 3 different GPIOs. Just focus lock so it's super clear. And then again, no resistors required. And then let me plug this in. Oh wow, and it just magically started working again, which is impressive. And then it drives them with constant current. And then you've got this beautiful RGB light. And what's cool is if I shake it, there's no jitter. You don't see when you normally use PWM, you'll see the LED turning on and off, especially when you wave it. You're not going to get that because it's constant current. There's only one thing that is a little annoying about this expander is it doesn't have the ability to do built-in pull-ups or pull-downs. So if you use it as an input, you're going to have to add an external pull-up or pull-down. That's the only thing though. And again, for LEDs, you don't need those, and it's totally worth it. I think it'll be great for driving a large number of LEDs. With the address jumpers as well, you can connect up to 4 of them on one bus.
Okay, and with that is new products for the week. All right. Well, now we're going to do is we're going to show some top secret videos, and then on the other side...
I have a top secret that you don't even know about.
I don't. There's a lot of things I don't know. There's more things I don't know than I know.
Yeah. Maybe you don't know.
So I'm going to play 2 videos, and then we'll then do some questions. But
okay.
They're not exactly top secrets. They're things that we were filming that just aren't out yet. So I'm going to play them.
Hey, Ladyada, what is this?
Hey, I'm showing off how I'm testing this high power buck converter. This is a 5 to 3 volt buck converter that can do 2 amp plus. And you're probably wondering, well, how do you know that it actually works at 2 amps? Well, I've got this whole testing rig to test it with. So let's look at everything. Over here, I've got a power supply, and this is what's supplying the 5 volts, and I can see the current going in. So this is my voltage source. And then over here, I've got a programmable load. And this is really cool because I can actually dial in how much current, and this is in amps, I want to draw. And then I can programmatically change the load. And then on my oscilloscope, you can see here, as I turn up the current, you see the voltage starts to drop until it reaches about 2.5 amps, and it totally plummets. So now I know it can go up to 2.8 amps.
Okay, Ladyada, what is this?
Hey, I'm testing out this kind of cool, like diffused, like milky white NeoPixel strip. I think it has a cool pastel look to it. I'm always interested in new ways that companies are making NeoPixel strips. So this one's kind of nice, and you see when I depower it, it's like a milky white color. So this will be coming to the Adafruit shop soon. Really interesting LED strip.
Okay, and you have a top secret
I
that I
do.
haven't seen, so let's check it out.
All right, first up, we've got a sample of this Raspberry Pi Pico pin reference card that we'll be having in the store. Maybe we'll include it as part of a pack or something. Very handy. Phil B made this beautiful art of all the pins and their functionalities with a nice legend up here. Nice work. And on the back, a CircuitPython quick start. So how to install CircuitPython, some tips on usage, and then, the basic blink and print hello world demo to get people started, just because it's like, once you got this, you can pretty much take it from here. So that's the first. It's not out yet, don't ask. Although, honestly, this is the same image that's on the product page, so just go to the product page for the Pico and you can download this and print it yourself. And next up, what could it be? What do you think it is?
Well, it looks like a cutie pie.
Yeah? But it's a special kind of cutie pie. It's a cutie pie 2040
Yeah.
with a Raspberry Pi RP2040 on the bottom, crystal, flash memory, and all the capacitors you need, and there's 2 buttons on the top. There's a boot button and a reset button, and a little NeoPixel. People love that. USB-C, Stemma QT connector, and here's a bonus. The Stemma QT I2C port is not the same one as this one, so you actually get 2 extra pins, so you can have like twice as many I2C devices. You can use the breadboard I2C, or you can use the Stemma QT, so you get like a total of, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 13 GPIO.
Okay.
Very cute.
And with that is
Cutie.
top secret for this week. All right, we're going to do questions. We do that over on Discord. Adafruit.it/Discord or discord.gg/Adafruit. Join us all over there, and let's do some questions. So the first question
Yeah.
that I got earlier that I already answered was, if someone makes a product and they include a cutie pie, do they have to pay Adafruit or anything? No. To expand upon that, there was someone who let us know that they like our one of our breakout boards, but we had made some revisions. So what they did is they downloaded the board files from a previous revision and sent them out and got to use them.
Hey.
And they thought that was really cool.
That's exactly what it's all about.
Yeah.
All of
So-
our PCBs are on GitHub. Download, make it. People do them all the time. In
Yeah.
fact, whenever like Osh Park ever like takes photos of panels, it's like, I'm like, hey, half of those designs are like based off of or
Yeah.
just like designs that we've made, and that's good.
One thing that we're not going to do, though, is we don't certify open source hardware OSHWA certification 8 different revisions. So, like, if we're at whatever revision we're on now when we certify, that's the one we do.
Yeah.
We don't go back in time and certify all the previous.
Yeah, like we did
8.
like 30 different sensor boards to make them Stemma QT compatible. I'm not
Yeah.
going to recertify them. The files are up and they're
Yeah, the
it's still
files are
open
up.
source.
They're still open source, but that would just
I'm not going to like register them again.
Yeah, that would be unfair, I think, because it's it would just flood the certification process. Like whatever we certify, when we go to certify, we say this is now OSHA certified, covers anyone going forward, and of course it's open source before that. This is
Yeah.
just the certification at that point in time.
Yep.
Anyways, okay. Question: can you write the AW9523 and control a bank of LEDs, or read a bank of switches all at once? If so, is there demo code?
Yeah, you can. I think we, to make it easier, code basically only lets you control one at a time, but you can read 8, or you can read like 16 in one go, but we usually read just 8 at a time, one for each bank. There's like the A bank and the B bank. But yeah, you can read them in one instruction.
Okay. And then you might need to look at this.
Okay. The CST026 chip on the cap touch breakout. What is this? Oh, it's a FT. It's like a focal touch something like 26. So the focal touch chip that was used on it got discontinued. And there's this company that's like, well, we make a drop-in replacement. So we're like, well, it's better than nothing. So that's what it is. But I don't remember. It's like the 6206. It should be equivalent.
Okay, how much current can this demo? GPIO expander sync? That LED driving looks pretty cool.
I think the max is like 40 milliamps. Like, check the data sheet, because it's definitely like not every pin is the same. I think like bank A can do 40 and the other can do 30. But it's like, you definitely can drive 2 LEDs, because I remember thinking like, oh, I want to drive a backlight with this.
I'll answer this one. When will the RP 2040 QT Py come out? Completely out of our control.
When I get chips,
we just have to wait for chips.
I put this together today.
Yeah, we don't have any insights. We had a few number of sample chips, so we can get boards going.
Yeah.
We have all the PCBs.
This is my second to last
when the
chip.
chips show up. But the thing is, like, the amount of instantaneous notification, like when all of the people who make boards and people who don't even make boards or starting to make boards are going to get their RP 2040s. You'll see it everywhere on Twitter and be like, here it is.
It'll be annoying. So many.
Okay. How easy do you think it would be to hack the MagTag to turn off stemma power while sleeping?
You could do it, but you would basically just cut. You could use one. What could you do? You would cut the jumper from that. There's like a little jumper that selects what voltage on the stemma, and then you'd solder the middle pad to the power pad of the neopixels, because the neopixels is the controlled. Like, there's one transistor that controls like the neopixels, as well as I think some of the sensors and the e-ink or something. And so you open up the schematic and find that power pin, and then connect it to the middle pin and cut the trace, and then it should just work, I think.
That's right. We don't know when the Feather RP 2040 will be out, because we need chips.
No control over it.
Same chips are needed.
The most important part I don't have.
And then Stemma Friend, we're still working on it. Just haven't released yet.
Yeah.
It has.
I got distracted. Just like Pico stuff. I don't know if you.
Has some more software.
Yeah, I got it.
It's a software-y thing, so it takes longer than hardware. Believe it or not, software takes longer than hardware.
That's true.
Okay, let's see if there's any other questions. I think we got all of them. Someone wanted to roll back their odometer with that ODB cable.
You can't.
Doesn't work that way. But
Don't you wish?
Super
It's
cool.
good for reading. Reading stats and sensor stuff.
Adafruit hiring? Just asking out of curiosity. No. Is the sort of answer. I mean, like, we don't have any active open roles
Yeah.
right now, but that's not kind of how you run a company anyways. Like, if there was someone who was doing things in our industry that was doing really cool work, or a lot of times people are making their own products and wanting us to stock it. So there's no like hiring freeze. There's nothing like that, but we just don't have any open roles that we're currently looking for. But we usually don't operate that way anyways.
Yeah, if people in the community, if they're engineering and they're doing products and projects, we'll contact them to carry the product. There's people who do projects and they say, I finished this project and I would like to make a learn guide out of it. Let us know and we can chat with you about that. So that's the kind of stuff that we usually start out with the community. Come by show and tell. That's like a great place to start. Like we get to know people from show and tell. And then we do projects with them.
All right, is there something that would stop an SHT30 sensor from working with a Hazard 32 breakout? I've got one and I'm having trouble.
No, make sure you hit pull-ups, but it should just work. I think the SHT30 is a pretty normal I2C sensor.
Okay. And I think we are... When will the 1162 feather be out? What would be the 1162?
I have no idea
know.
what that is.
Is there something we don't know about?
Yeah. Is that somebody else? Maybe somebody else's feather. I don't have an 1162.
No.
Mm. Okay.
All right, I think that is going to be the questions
Okay.
for tonight. That's it, everybody. Thanks
All
so
right,
much.
thanks everybody.
that's our show for this week. We will see everybody next week, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Ask an Engineer. Show and tell, 7:30.
We got some. We got JP's workshop tomorrow. We've got Friday. We've got Scott's deep dive, so you're entertained. Sunday we'll have Desk of Ladyada, and then kicking off next week, of course.
I will answer one last question because it just came in. Will Adafruit ever send some cool electronics to space? Already did. Already did. So
Hell yeah.
Circuit Python's in space with the PyCube satellite project.
Yeah.
And
We even saw it. She took
Yeah.
a photo of it. So not only did it send stuff to space, but she saw it go to space.
yeah, and
Like a rocket.
the way it works is, you can't say, well, this company bought something from us and we know it's in space or used for things. But what I can say is all of the companies that put stuff in space buy things from Adafruit. So,
Not
anyways.
mentioning any names, but
No, it's easy. It's just all.
yeah, you
So
know 'em.
if there is a company that's doing stuff, or even a government organization, they are customers, and there's Adafruit stuff in
That's
space
right.
for sure. Okay. Anyways,
Thanks, everybody.
that's it. We'll see everybody next week. Thanks to Cara, who's running stuff
Thank you,
in
Takara.
the behind the scenes.
Thank you to our
Slack
community.
channel.
Thank you to all the people who wrote guides, people who track
Yep.
stuff, people who are writing projects with the Pico. Thank you so much, everybody. And of course, folks helping each other out in Discord.
Yeah.
What a great community.
And remember, when you see someone do a cool project that has something to do with Lego, say "cool project." Don't be a Lego enforcer. That's the closing
Or
thought.
may you be cursed by stepping on Legos.
All right, that's your closing thought for your moment of Zener.